Hey guys, welcome back to the Wildcard Rewind. I am back and I am hosting this week. I am joined, as always, by my two amazing co-hosts, Mags and Hannah. And let's get straight into it.
I just want to rewind to when we were younger. Back to all those good times. Take me back to the start.
Yes! Mags has got his air guitar, well, his proper guitar out and everything.
It is filled with her. It is filled with her.
Yeah. So how we both doing? Mags, how you doing, mate? How's your week been?
Man, tell you what, fun week. Last sort of week of my job before the Christmas holidays. Had a staff night out on Friday. Had to cook for 6 people on Saturday. That was fun. Then, all of the sport on Sunday, World Cup final. What a fantastic game that was. And then, all of the NFL action as well. A couple of Saturday night games sprinkled in there. I've had a brilliant week, actually. It's been fantastic.
Yeah, me too. Hannah, what about you?
Yeah, it was good, thank you. I think I say this every week, but there was just another weekend of craziness in the NFL, right? I really think that this season has been so much fun. Like, anything can happen, and it has happened. And this is just another weekend of madness and things you didn't expect. It's just been an awesome season, and I'm feeling quite sad that we're getting near the end now.
Yeah. It's what a year to actually start our podcast, because there seems to be so much to talk about each week. We're not sitting here going, oh yeah, the Chiefs won again. Oh yeah, the Chiefs won again. Oh yeah, we are saying that, Yeah. But sometimes. No, there just seems to be like some sort of madness in a game, or there's something that's always like, I don't know, maybe it's we're looking at things a bit different because of the pod, maybe that's what's changing it for us, that we are looking at things different. But no, I agree with you, Hannah. It is a bit of a mad season, really, isn't it? But yeah, let's get straight into our predictions rewind. Hannah, we're gonna start with you. You had the Eagles versus the Bears, and you predicted an Eagles win, which was correct. And you predicted Justin Fields would have more rushing yards, which again was correct because he had 95. What a start.
2 wins. Come on. I have to try and push away from you, Paul, now after your perfect score last week. I was like, I can't possibly let Paul catch me up, because that would just be embarrassing.
I've been robbed this week, but we'll get into that in a little bit.
Oh, you always say that, Paul. It's not our fault you can't predict things, Maybe you should have learned by now that prediction's just not your bag. Maybe you shouldn't do betting. That should not be your profession, that's for sure.
Yes, love it.
Let's get on with the game, eh? We don't need to talk about how terrible you are, Paul. Do you know what? I have to say, I expected this to be an Eagles walkover. I was like, they're playing the Bears. The Bears have got into their stride a little, but they're not good, really. But I have to say, I was really concerned for most of this game that the Bears were going to take it, because it wasn't the typical game that we've expected to see from the Eagles. They were quite careless with the ball. There were 3 turnovers. I think, to be honest, they were just quite lucky that the Bears' offense isn't particularly good, so they couldn't capitalise on those turnovers, because I think any other team, they probably would have lost here. Because, as I say, it just wasn't the classic game that we've got used to seeing from them. They didn't look quite as smooth as usual. I do think that Goddard coming back next week should hopefully help them a little bit. Another weapon. Obviously we know they've got AJ Brown and Devonta Smith, but I do think having Goddard sprinkled in there as well does really help them have a bit more flexibility. I do think that the Bears are continuing to play hard. We've seen Fields really blossom, I would say. He's not perfect. He's not the world's best thrower yet, like we all know that, but you can just see his confidence is getting better and better with each game. And I do think he has the potential to be a little bit of a Jalen Hurts here, where he's got the athleticism, We know he's got that rushing ability, which has that kind of additional element of threat. And all he needs to do now really is kind of improve his passing game and put those pieces together. And I think he really could do really well. I think obviously at the moment he hasn't got the pieces around him. His wide receivers are just, not good enough really to help him out. But I think another off season, I'm not saying he's going to turn into suddenly Jalen Hurts, who seemed to go from last year to this year, make this really incredible leap and look pretty good and make Mags look pretty bad when he said he was going to be crap. But I do think he should hopefully continue to make these steps. And I do think that he's earned himself a shot as kind of their QB going forward. I don't think they're going to try and push for a QB in the draft. I don't know what you guys think, though.
I agree. I think he's earned a right to play again.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not sure. Maybe I did say Justin Fields crap. I definitely said the Bears were crap. I said the Bears were going to be the worst team in the NFL.
You unplanted your flag and Jalen Hurts.
Jalen Hurts. Did I say Justin Fields? I meant Jalen Hurts.
Yes. Oh, no. Yeah. No.
I knew what you meant.
Yeah, you knew what I meant. My words said something totally different because I meant Jalen Hurts, not Justin.
Yeah,
Fields.
Hurts has definitely proven me. Jill Hurts me. What a player! Like this, that. Yeah, fantastic. We've been through Jill Hurts. I was definitely wrong on that. Justin Fields. I've got a little bit of a hot take for Justin Fields.
Oh God.
I would be surprised if at some stage in his career he doesn't win an NFL MVP. He's playing that well and looking that electric.
Didn't I hear one of the commentators saying that he is in touching distance of breaking Lamar Jackson's single season rushing record?
Wow.
I heard him say it. I'm not sure what the record is, but I believe if he keeps going the way that he's going, he will beat Lamar Jackson. The year that he got MVP, he'll beat Lamar Jackson's rushing record for a single season rushing, because he's over 1,000 yards rushing now, isn't he, Fields?
Yes, he is.
Which, it's a scary thought. If you put a decent O-line in front of him, maybe he wouldn't rush as much then if he's got a decent O-line, because a lot of it is scrambling, But if he had a decent O-line in front of him and decent weapons, could he be Jalen Hurts? You know what I mean? Jalen Hurts last year, everyone was like, oh, yeah, he's not going to be the future. Then he gets this O-line, they get A.J. Brown, they get everything firing for him, and all of a sudden we're all on board with the fact that he's going to be a future player at the Eagles for years to come, and he's borderline MVP this season and everything like that. Is that the same for Justin Fields? If you give him that, does he blossom into a beautiful flower?
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, that was exactly what I was pondering, really, Paul. You expressed it probably much more succinctly than I did. But yeah, that is the question, isn't it? If they get the pieces around him, can he do what Jalen Hurts has done and make that big leap? And if he does, then realistically, I can see him potentially being in that MVP conversation just because of his athleticism and talent from the rushing kind of side. But I guess we'll have to see how things go over the course of the off season and into next season. But I do think losing obviously will help them out in the draft. At this stage, I think, to be honest, winning is doing them no favours. You just want to build up Fields' confidence, but keep losing kind of in the process so that you still get that really good draft pick that you can either keep if, there's someone you like, or if you're high enough, you could potentially trade down, get loads of capital, and someone else can pick a QB in that spot. Because I think at the minute they're picking number 2, aren't they? So I think they're going to be in a really good spot there.
Okay.
Shall we move on to your game, Mags? So your first game was the Lions versus the Jets. So you predicted the Lions win, which was correct. They did win 20-17, and you did predict Mike White to throw under 295.5 yards, and you were right because he didn't play. I think that was a bit of a default one, really, wasn't it? But yeah, what did you think of the game?
Yeah, I mean, Mike White throwing for 0 yards. What terrible player, right? That's not great. I love the game. I love the Lions. They're definitely my second team. Paul, your hand is up.
I feel like we should take the points away from him because Zach Wilson went over 295.5. So I think it should be default that's actually a loss because the QB for the Jets threw over 295.5. I feel like we should take the point away.
I would agree with you if the prediction was, does the Jets quarterback throw under 295?
Yeah, but at the time of recording, we weren't sure on Mike White.
Yeah, you guys should have made that clear. It was that Mike White was on the sheet.
I smell a poll coming.
It was Mike White on the sheet. Mike White threw 0 yards that day. That is under 295.5. I will take my points and run. And I'll argue I would have said Zach Wilson would have thrown over as well, even if I don't mean it. Because he did throw over. And actually, that's kind of one of my points is, Zach Wilson, yet again, he's getting the blame for this Jets loss. Even though he threw for more yards than Jared Goff on the other side did, and he threw more touchdowns than Jared Goff on the other side did. He threw for 317 yards. He was throwing lovely passes to Uzama, Elijah Moore back in the team, looking pretty good. Clever. It was kind of clever play. Do you see that bit when he's kind of held up? His elbow did hit the ground. I thought Zach Wilson was okay here. I don't think Zach Wilson was the reason the Jets lost that game. It was because their running game was absolutely terrible. Michael Carter did absolutely nothing. Donovan Knight did absolutely nothing. No one in that running team did anything because the Lions just absolutely shut it down. And I was happy to see that because Dan Campbell and the Lions, they've won 6 of the last 7 games now. They've got a shot to get in the playoffs, which is brilliant. We said at the start of the year, it's like we love watching this Lions team. It's like they're really good. They're just really unlucky to keep losing by 1 or 2 or 3 points. It's always single score games. And now things are starting to click. And we said they just needed a little bit of luck. That little thing like Zach Wilson's elbow being on the ground and the touchdown not counting for the Jets. Little things like that are starting to finally turn their way. The wide receivers they've got, they're looking slick. The offensive line is up there with the Eagles as the best in football. And Dan Campbell, he's a smart guy. And he looks like this big, tough, like kind of, this grit kind of guy. But there's some clever play designs in there. I loved the Brock Wright play at the end of the game that kind of won the game for the Lions, where it's just like the Red Sea had parted and he had just all the space in the world. That's not because, Brock Wright is an amazing athlete. He's not. People call him Block Wright, it's not because he's this great pass catcher. It's because it's designed really, really well. So Dan Campbell and his team deserve credit for that. And yeah, I hope the Lions get to the playoffs. That'll be lovely to see. What do you guys think? You like the Lions?
Love them. I do think I do have a little special place in my heart for them this season.
Me too. Yeah.
I think they're really playing their hearts out. And to be fair to him, I've never really been much of a Jared Goff fan, but I think he's playing some of his best football at the moment. I know he does have these dips, especially when they're not playing at home, and he's not always perfect. But I just felt so sorry for him after got kicked to the curb by the Rams.
Yeah.
And he's playing his heart out now to try and save his job in the Lions. And it may or may not work out for him. But that whole team just has a spirit to it. They just feel like they're so proud when they win. They just want to kind of do really well. And it's just so nice to see. I do enjoy watching them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, mate, I think you said, Mags, didn't you, a couple of episodes ago, you were like, the Lions is kind of our second team or our pod team.
Yeah.
And
I think so.
And I agree. I love to watch them play. And I think it's that little bit of an underdog story, isn't it? You know what I mean? We've watched them for years lose many games and struggle and everything like this. And then, when Matt Stafford left to go to the Rams, you were a bit like, oh, he's finally got out of there. He can go and win something, and then went and win something. And now, actually, I think Matt Stafford would rather be at the Lions team, if I'm honest. He's got a Super Bowl, but he's looking, that Rams team doesn't look great, but the Lions team looks like it's going places, I'm excited to see where the future is for the Lions. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. And future is certainly bright for your first game, Paul. Right? You had the Buffalo Bills going against the Miami Dolphins. I couldn't wait for this one. I would thought this was going to be an absolutely amazing game. And a lot of other weeks it might have been our game of the week, but it turns out we had about 6 games that could have been game of the week this week. So you went for a Bills win, which was correct. They won 32-29, and you thought Josh Allen would have more passing yards than Tua. Mate, 2 out of 2, smashed it. Josh Allen, 304 passing yards. What do you think of this game and its weird camera angles? Right?
Do you know what? So weirdly, the way that this game was reported beforehand with the weather and the snow and everything like that, I thought it was going to be an atrocious game. When you get there's like heavy snow and you were like, oh, it's going to be one of them. It's just going to be the running back. And it was just going to be an awful, awful game. And actually, it turned out to be a belter of a game. You know what I mean? This type of game is what I expect all the playoff games to be. 2 monster teams going at it and just, you know what I mean? It was brilliant, absolutely brilliant to see. But, the Bills, I'm still not 100% on board with them. Start of the season, I was like, they're going to go all the way. Then throughout the season, I've sort of lost a little bit of hope with them. And I'm still looking at that now. They were 29-21 down. And you were just like, they had to come back. And I know they come back and they got the win. But I don't know. I just feel like they're just not quite a sure thing for me. I think they've got a few teams that they're going to meet in the playoffs, or they could meet in the playoffs, like the Bengals or the Titans, or the Chiefs. And I kind of feel that they may be a team. I suppose the Chiefs always seem to let the Bills back in, and it's always whoever gets the ball last. But I don't know. I just feel like the Bills are going to struggle when we get to the playoffs, and I don't know why. I don't know why it's in my head, but I just get the feeling that they're going to do that again, where they get like the number 1 seed, they get the bye, and then the next game they're going to play the Chiefs, say, and then they lose, and then they're doing that thing again, and we're all just going, are the Bills ever going to get past that mark? I just a bit worried for them, but ultimately this was a great game. This was a great game. I have to say that Josh Allen has become the second QB in NFL history to reach 50 wins and 130 passing touchdowns in his first 5 seasons.
Second?
Yeah, that's what I said.
Who was the first? I wonder.
I think his name's Patrick something. I can't remember.
Like any stat that ends with in first 5 seasons, the answer is always Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, he's a prick. But so I've got a bit of a question for you. Okay, you are now in charge of an NFL team, and you could pick any QB and 1 wide receiver. And I've listed a few here. Which ones would you rather have? Burrow and Chase, Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown, Tua and Waddle, Kirk Cousins, Justin Jefferson, Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins.
Oh, please.
No. Maybe if I'm playing Call of Duty, I'd take those guys.
Mate, I don't know what your beef is with Kyler. The guy's injured. DeAndre Hopkins is still one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. He's up there.
Like
or Dak or Lamb, or can you think of anyone else that I've missed off? Who would you rather have?
I'm assuming you're putting Allen and Diggs in there as well. Is that part of it?
Yeah. That was why I was going with it.
For me, it's between Allen and Diggs and Burrow and Chase. I think if I'm playing right now, like if we have our Super Bowl scenario again, like who do you want in the Super Bowl to play for your team? Like your mythical team, I'm going for Allen because I think he's a better quarterback, and Diggs because I think the gap between Burrow and Allen and Diggs and Chase isn't the same. Hannah's shaking her head.
No, I don't think there's a massive gap between Burrow and Allen. No way. Yeah, he doesn't look as he doesn't look as flashy as Allen. He doesn't look as flashy. Okay, he might not do the running bits as much as Allen, but as a pure quarterback, I do not believe that Josh Allen is better than Joe Burrow. No way. Like the plays that Joe Burrow makes is not fancy. It's not. He doesn't do those wow, amazing plays. But honestly, if you look back at some of those throws that he has made over the past few games, the windows are like millimeters thin that he's putting those balls in to those receivers. It's unreal. So no, I politely disagree that Burrow is like a lot worse than Allen. I would say that I personally think he's probably actually playing better than Allen at this very moment in time.
I can see that.
As I say, the way he plays, the style's very different. Like it's very difficult to like directly compare them stylistically because they're so different. But I think he is just extremely cerebral, and he's playing on this very, very high level at the moment. As I say, might not look it from the outside, but I think he is. I would like Jefferson if he didn't have Kirk Cousins.
Yeah,
Kirk Cousins just ruins that whole thing, doesn't it? Obviously, I have to be a homer and go Burrow Chase, but
yeah, but that's why I put QB wide receiver as a combo, because if I said you could pick a QB and a wide receiver, Mags would sit here and go, "I'll have Pat Mahomes and Justin Jefferson, please." You know what I mean? And
Tyreek Hill, maybe, been done before, won the Super Bowl.
Oh, mate, come on. but no, I kind of agree with you in a sense that I don't think there's much between Burrow and Allen, but I think there's a significant gap between Chase and Diggs, if I'm honest, which would make me lean Burrow and Chase, because I think Allen is a better QB than Burrow, but I think Chase is a long way ahead of Stephon Diggs, if I'm honest. So
I don't think a long way either. I think that they're close. Right? It's a great question, Paul. Is what it is.
Yeah, it is. But I think if I was picking, I think I'd probably lean with Allen at the moment, and Burrow and Chase, to be honest. That's because I love Jamar Chase.
he is.
Right, we'll have to remember to do a Twitter poll after the show and see what.
No, you're already in the firing line for a Twitter poll. We're going to take a point.
You're going to keep suggesting them.
Right, let's get into your second game, Hannah. You had the Titans versus the Chargers. You had a Chargers win, which was correct, and you had any receiver over 100.5 yards, and you said the under, so that was correct. Keelan Allen was closest with 86 yards. What do you think of this one?
Yeah, I mean, before I get too into the game, I do have to give kudos to Ryan Tannehill. He has the biggest cojones I have ever seen. Like, he gets carted off the field. You assume that he's not coming back. One series later, in he comes, basically on one leg, and then manages to complete, I think it's 15 of 22 passes in the game, which is pretty good to say that he only really has one functioning ankle, and then proceeds to do a QB sneak to get a touchdown whilst being basically squashed by Derrick Henry and pushed over the goal line. So I was like, do you know what? Good on you. You didn't have to come in and basically make yourself a lot worse. But he came back in, and I'm very impressed with the size of his testicalia to come and do that. I think he did really awesome there, to be fair. But I do actually think, unfortunately, the Titans have kind of seemed to be getting into a bit of a free fall here. And obviously, a game that we're going to mention a bit later, Jacksonville, they managed to get the win. So they are now only one game behind the Titans for the AFC South. So I've got to think that that's making them quite nervous, and I suspect that's probably one of the reasons why Tannehill went back in, because he knows that the Jags are going to start breathing down their necks. And obviously, if they don't win the division, they're not going to be in the playoffs because they haven't got a good enough record. So they still have to keep winning. But they just... Obviously, they started with a 3-game losing streak, and we were like, the Titans are going to be really rubbish. And then they kind of rallied and managed to kind of string enough together to win quite a few, and then they seem to have kind of dropped off a bit again now. And I just think that, unfortunately, their talent's kind of catching up to them. On defense, they've got quite a few injuries now, so they're kind of getting deep in their roster. And we know they haven't really got any wide receivers to speak of. Derrick Henry's really the only kind of decent thing on that offense, and he just can't do everything, unfortunately. He still ran for over 100 yards and got a touchdown, but it's just not enough to do it. And I do think, unfortunately, they are probably going to struggle now. And I think if they do manage to get into the playoffs, I can't see them winning that wildcard game, to be honest. I think really they're in for a bit of a reset in the off season, to be honest. But I just generally felt this whole game was a bit scrappy, to be honest. It was all right, but it wasn't particularly fun. I don't think the Chargers played as well as they did last week. Obviously, there was that kind of Tua Herbert debate, and we saw Herbert kind of go out and basically throw it all over the shop. Not really seen that this week. I thought they'd kind of fallen back into their kind of not particularly smooth, kind of good-looking offensive ways. It was a bit stuttery and not all together. I just think there's something not right there. I can't explain it, but there's something just not quite clicking there.
I think I know.
Go on, Max. You tell me.
I think that Brandon Staley is a bad coach.
Yeah, I'm not a massive fan. The only thing that I thought impressed me was last week's defensive game plan with the Dolphins. I thought that was quite impressive, and we know that most likely is him. But as a head coach, don't like him.
His record's almost 50-50 with that Chargers team. I think, put it this way, I think if him and Mike Vrabel swap jobs, that would be a very different game, because I think Mike Vrabel's actually a very, very good coach with a very poor Titans team.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think the fact that they've been able to string together, 6-7 wins, is just really shows how good Mike Vrabel is, to be honest, with kind of the talent they've got there. But, for both of them, it was a massive game in terms of their playoff picture, and it was a big win for the Chargers. I think that gives them quite a decent chance to be in with a wildcard spot here. My only question is, can they actually stop themselves from messing it up for the first time in how many years? So I'm going to hold judgment to see if they're definitely going to be in yet, because knowing then they'll find ways to lose and miss out again.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was an all right game, but nothing too much to write home about. The best thing was Tannehill going in and slugging it out and managing to make it to the end. I was very impressed, to be honest. Mags, go on.
Did you like the uniforms that the Chargers were wearing, or did you think that they looked like the Rams?
I loved them. I love the Chargers uniforms.
I was like, the Rams are not playing. Why does it? I was just like, it was just too similar to the Rams. But I do like the all blue style of it, to be fair.
I always love any color rush uniform. I'm all over it. Love it.
I don't like that royal blue one though. Like you said, this one, yeah, it's a bit too garish for me. As a Charger, I didn't like it.
We even come up with fashion tips now,
I know. Wow. Look at us. Maybe we could design the new uniforms, right?
Yeah.
So, Max, you also had a thriller with your second game, which was the Falcons versus the Saints. So you did predict Saints win, which was correct. Unfortunately, your second prediction was incorrect because you predict that Ridder would have over 1.5 interceptions, which surprisingly actually had no interceptions.
No.
So how was Desmond Ridder's debut in the NFL?
Well, he had no interceptions because he only had 13 completed passes. So he was so crap. Like, it's hard to intercept the ball when it's pinging off the ground 5 yards after his feet because he can't throw it. Very, very poor kind of game to it. Desmond Ridder looked really bad. At one stage, I thought there might have been one interception, but the guy who intercepted it was out of bounds. That Falcons team I think they are sort of tanking without tanking because they've all of a sudden decided that they're not going to give Cordero Patterson, the only good player on their team, the ball, and that seems suspicious to me because he was winning them games beforehand, and all of a sudden they're taking out Marcus Mariota, they're putting in Desmond Ridder to see what they have with him, which, fair enough. But then you're also pairing the new rookie quarterback with...
We called that 2 weeks ago as well.
That's true. We
did say that they should put Ridder in.
But I think now they know they're not going to get to the playoffs because that division was so bad they almost had a chance the whole way through. Not giving the ball to Cordarrelle Patterson and giving it to Huntley instead, who, has done fine, but he's not as good as Cordarrelle Patterson. That's where you're like, this is the Eagles taking out Jalen Hurts and putting in whoever the hell that guy was at the end of the game a few years ago, right? And just trying to, not lose on purpose, but not really trying to win either, I think. So I wouldn't be shocked if that's what the Falcons are kind of doing. But, the main talking point from this was, oh, by the way, who almost had as many throwing yards as Desmond Ridder? Taysom Hill, who threw the ball twice for 80 yards. It was absolutely amazing. We obviously talk about it every week. Taysom Hill, he's going to line up, he's going to run. Why does no one stop it? And then the Falcons line up thinking that he just throws it over the top for 80 yards and 2 throws. So, yeah, you have to love that with Taysom Hill. Still love watching him play. The Saints, even though they won, what are the Saints doing? Giving the ball to Alvin Kamara to rush for 21 attempts and only 2 receiving attempts. Means they know who Alvin Kamara is, right? He's the guy that catches the ball and runs to the ball. That's kind of what he's really, really, really good at. I think this might be another team that aren't that well coached. I think their record is worse than what it should be. But yeah, not very enjoyable. But what was enjoyable was the game you had, Paul, which was the Patriots against the Raiders. One play in particular, maybe my favorite. We'll get to that a bit later, I think. But there was also the Patriots win that you predicted. I think every time the Raiders have won a game, you've predicted they would lose. I think you're single-handedly keeping the Raiders in the hunt this year. And then in the case of will Josh Jacobs get over under a certain amount of yards, you answered Ramondre Stevenson, which was incorrect. Josh Jacobs did not rush under Ramondre Stevenson from what I could see. What do you think of the game, though, mate?
Right. So I'm going to explain myself here because neither one of you would defend me at all or anything like that. I'd been up since midnight on Sunday night, Monday morning. I'd done nearly 15 hours in work. I'd broken down so I couldn't get home. Ended up sleeping in the truck. I was that tired I went to sleep at 6 o'clock. Set an alarm for 20 to 8 so I could get up and get my predictions in for the show. Completely misread it. Read the one that was the line above that said, who has more rushing yards? And then thought, Ramondre Stevenson. So I wrote that in. Genuine mistake when I'm half asleep. You teachers don't know what 15 hours is. And you're giving me beef.
It's what I work in a month.
The only midnight, the only time you see midnight is if you stop up. I was up for work. I was tired. And then do you know what? I did the decent thing. I messaged you both and said, look, I made a mistake. I went on the show sheet and I changed it to the under, thinking you'll go, do you know what, mate? We'll give you the benefit of the doubt. You'd had a bad day in work. Nope, you both just basically went, nah, that's your prediction. So do you know what? I've been robbed here because I said Josh Jacobs under 140 yards, which he would have done. He would have done. And I said Ramondre Stevens would have more rushing yards, which he would have done. So do you know what? You're both mean to me.
Why don't we do a Twitter poll to decide if you should go?
Yeah, let's do that, shall we? Let's do that. We know how Twitter goes. They just don't like me.
You think way about Paul? Twitter's worse.
Yeah, it's always
basically,
worse.
Basically, it's because I'm Welsh in it,
Aye.
But yeah, the game was pretty boring, mate. To be fair, it was a pretty boring game. There wasn't much. Do you know what? It was exactly what I thought it would be. It would just be a boring game, and nothing exciting happened. The only thing that was exciting was the last play, and we're not going to say too much about that because that may come up again in a bit. The only other thing I've got to say about this is, why didn't the Patriots just take the game to overtime?
Literally no idea.
Why did they try and do that? And I was like, you know what I mean? If the ball would have gone dead, even if Ramondre Stevenson, when he crossed the field goal line, if he'd have gone, do you know what? I'm not going to get there. I'll just go out. We'll take this to overtime. But it was, I don't know. I was just so confused. Yeah. But yeah, with that said, let's jump into our game of the week. And this week, like you said earlier, Mags, we had so many games we could choose from. We could have had the Bills Dolphins. We could have had the Jags Cowboys.
Yeah.
We could have had
Texans.
The Chiefs Texans. Yeah. Oh, why didn't we pick that one, Hannah? Oh,
I think if the Chiefs had lost, I definitely would have voted.
That definitely would have been the game of the week. But we had to go for the Colts and the Vikings.
Wow. Yeah.
The Colts losing 39-36. But yeah, Hannah, what did you think of this game?
Well, I mean, how much would you just hate to be Matt Ryan right now? He has been on the wrong end of kind of two of the worst things in the NFL. So the biggest comeback in the Super Bowl history, and also now the biggest comeback in the regular season history.
Wow.
Ouch. I reckon it's time for him to retire, right? Yeah. What other terrible kind of historical thing can we squeeze in for him before he retires? But yeah, I mean, ouch. It must just be really terrible to be him.
Oh, excuse me.
But I have to say, the end of that game was so much fun to watch.
Yeah.
Obviously, the Vikings got stopped on a fourth down with 3 minutes to go. I was like, I think this is probably going to be over. The Colts, I think they're going to probably manage to get the win here after they basically blew a massive lead. But of course, it didn't end and it went into overtime and it was just so much fun. But I do think both defenses did make some big plays in big moments. And obviously, you have to say hats off to the Colts special team as well for making that play and getting that touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
And although the Vikings did kind of make this magical comeback and manage to win the game in the end, I do actually think that the game did make me a little bit more concerned about them. It was actually not the fact that obviously they managed to come back, but it's the fact that they can just disappear for a whole half of a game.
Yeah.
I just don't think that really bodes particularly well for the playoffs. I just don't think any of the playoff teams will let them come back like that, especially since we know the Matt Ryan-led Colts are not going to be in there. I just can't see anybody like the Eagles or the Cowboys giving them that opportunity to get all those kind of points mark. So I don't know what you guys think about the Vikings. I think we've kind of discussed this a little bit for a number of weeks, but more and more I'm kind of feeling more and more uneasy, and I think it's probably the Kirk Cousins effect, to be honest. We know that he can disappear and have these silly interceptions and things like that, kind of brain fog moments. But I just don't feel that confident that they're true contenders, to be honest. And I think this game has kind of cemented that for me a little bit more. But I don't know what you think about them. I don't know what you thought of this game, Mags.
I mean, this game just had everything. So I just kind of went through my notes and I've kind of crossed them down just into things that happened in this game. And it's just it's got everything. There was a special teams touchdown, a block punt, a fumble from Dalvin Cook again, an injury to a star player, Jonathan Taylor. There was a pick six. McLaughlin, the kicker, was on a hot streak. There was disallowed touchdowns for Sullivan, a controversial one as well. I didn't think it should have been disallowed. There was a battle of the best in the business. Justin Jefferson, Stephon Gilmore. How good was that to watch? There were 4th and 1 stops. There was a 64-yard breakaway run. Oh, yeah, and the biggest comeback in NFL history as well also happened in that game. I mean, how could this not be game of the week? It's been a game of the season, surely. Just absolutely loved watching it. And yeah, the Vikings are, as they kept saying, the kings in the north, but they're kind of kings of an empire of dirt, right? That's not the strongest division. We talked about the Lions. They're coming for that title. So next year, the Lions are coming for the Vikings. I think they're going to supplant them, I think. Because, yeah, I'm still just uneasy about that Vikings defense. It's not good enough. You can't concede that many points against a team like the Colts that aren't great and expect to go far in the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree. To continue what you were saying, Hannah, I think the one team that stood out to me that they could meet in the playoffs that wouldn't allow them to do that if they put them type of scores up against them was the 49ers. You know, I was just like, you come up against the 49ers defense, they will do that to you. They will special team you and they will pick six you and everything all day long, you know. And once they've done that, they're not letting you back into that game. And you come up against a team like that and do that, you're all over the place, you know. I won't say too much. I said Matt Ryan needs a holiday, but after what you're saying, it sounds like he needs a long holiday for the rest of his life. But, you know, apart from that, what a great game. You know what I mean? Like you said, man, this is probably game of the season for me. You know what I mean? Matt Ryan, you can't do much worse, mate. So enjoy your last couple of games. But yeah, so we'll go on to our prediction scoreboard. Hannah, you scored 4 this week because you're incredible. You're incredible. You're up to 40 points. Mags, you've got a controversial 3 that should be 2. So you're on 42 this week. And I was robbed with 2 that should be 3. So I'm on 32.
You've even put robbed in the show sheet as well. You've typed it in.
But yeah, so we're going to get onto our hit rewind moment now and talk about some of our favourite plays of the week. So I'm excited. Mags, what was your favourite play of the week?
Oh, I love this one. This was from your game, Hannah. It was the Titans-Chargers, and the ball's kind of looking like it's drifting at the back of the end zone. And it's McCreary jumps up kind of out of bounds to catch the ball, and he kind of like a little volleyball, like a little pass back to his mate Kalu, who catches it, and it kind of counts as an interception and a touchback, and one of the best turnovers you'll see all season. I mean, the athleticism and just the smarts of McCreary, just really, really great to see. Made sure his feet didn't touch the ground before the ball was out of his hands. Yeah, great play. I had to watch that a couple of times. Hannah, what was yours?
So I stole this from Paul's game, and I had to write it in before anyone else could, because I was like, I have to take this as my hit rewind moment of the week. And you know, most of the time we do the hit rewind moments because we think they're good or great. This is just like a hit rewind moment in a terrible way, and you have to watch it again and again just to kind of try and figure out what they were trying to do. And this obviously is from the Pats game. And it's that end of game play by the Pats where Ramondre Stevenson kind of shovel passes it to Jacoby Myers, who then does like a massive like throw of the ball across the field to God knows who. Well, actually straight to Chandler Jones, who then, you know, we all know what happens next, lobs it down the field and scores a touchdown. I totally agree with you, Paul. What the hell are they doing? It was a tied game. All they had to do was go down and they'd gone into overtime and would have still had a chance to win the game. I actually think that maybe Jacoby Myers just wanted to go home. He didn't want to play another kind of 15 to 30 minutes or whatever. Yeah. But I have to say, I never, ever would have thought I would have seen this kind of play from a Belichick-led team. We know how disciplined they usually are. They do everything correctly. They know what's, to do when. I just thought this was really out of character for them to do this kind of thing. I reckon he is so mad. I would hate to be in that locker room afterwards. But anyway, if anybody has not seen this play, I've seen it on Twitter loads as well. So please go and find it. It is just the craziest thing I've seen all season.
It's almost like a play you would call if you had never been an offensive coordinator in your life before.
True.
I was a little bit gutted I couldn't get this one in you because I love this play. I think my favourite part was watching Chandler Jones stiff arm Mac Jones on the floor. Like, you know what I mean? Although I do think that Mac Jones didn't really try and tackle him. I think you know what I mean?
I wouldn't try and tackle Chandler Jones either. Have you seen the size of that guy?
You'd have a go, wouldn't you? It was like Mac Jones.
No, I would not. I would run away.
Oh, well, you're Irish, you know? But you'd at least think, This is us losing the game. He gets past me, we're losing the game. And he just basically sat down. And I know Chandler Jones is a big guy and the force of his hand probably sat him down. Sit down, Mac. There you go. But But I agree, Hannah. I think it was an awful play call and not something you see from Bill Belichick very often. But I'm gonna, mine's not that fancy play or anything like that. Mine was Jalen Hurts to AJ Brown, that 68-yard bomb. I was surprised that AJ Brown caught it, but to catch it and tiptoe along the sideline to stay in. The only thing I was gutted about with this whole play was the fact that he didn't go for a touchdown.
Yeah,
because you'd sort of done all of the hard work, and it was down at the I think it was inside the 5, wasn't it, where he finally got tackled, and I was just like, oh, you were that close, but no, it was it just shows the talent for AJ Brown and how good he is and awareness of the sideline and everything like that. So I did enjoy that one, but let's get into our rapid recap, the best of the rest. And Hannah, we're going to go straight to you for, was this one Thursday night's football? I think it was Thursday night football.
Yeah.
With the Seahawks and the 49ers.
Yeah, so I had the 49ers beating the Seahawks 21-13. I mean, Brock Purdy just continues to impress me, to be honest. I actually thought, and we may still start to see him kind of have some hiccups, but he just seems so cool, calm and collected. He delivers the ball where it needs to be. I don't know whether that's because it's a Shanahan offense who kind of is regimented and tells him where he needs to go, but he seems to still have kind of some of these off-script plays, the 2 pump fakes and then going to Kittle. Like, he just seems to be managing that offense really well. Now, obviously, I know he has loads of weapons, but, we've seen some terrible quarterbacks in that offense in the past, so I think he's doing really well, and actually maybe they should have traded 3 first-round picks for him rather than their actual first-round pick, but who knows? There's still time yet. I just thought the 49ers showed their quality in this game. And I think the Seahawks have done really well this season, but I think at the moment they've probably reached their peak now. They're kind of plateauing, and they might make it into the wild card, but again, I don't think they're going to get very far, unfortunately. But it's a good story for them. We didn't expect them to do anything, and they've done pretty well. So, Mags, you had an AFC North classic with the Ravens versus the Browns. I'm gutted that it wasn't mine. Not.
Yeah. The main thing I want to check for this is I've got kind of 2 witnesses with me. Did I see Justin Tucker not only have a kick blocked, but he also just flat out missed one? Did that actually happen?
He is human.
Yeah.
He is human.
I'm not going crazy. That's the only real highlight in that game. The Ravens suck again because they don't have anyone to throw the ball to, and they don't have anyone to throw the ball even at the minute. J.K. Dobbins looked good, although he's running a bit weird. I don't know if I'm looking for something. I think he's running a bit strange. But Browns, Voldemort gathering those Horcruxes in every week, getting better every week, right? Paul, you had the Steelers up against the Panthers. Not a bad game, right?
Yeah, just going back to that, we said this about the Browns, didn't we? We said if they could sneak into the playoffs, they're a team to look out for. But yeah, the Steelers versus the Panthers, it's very nothing game, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know why we are still in a conversation that the Panthers could make the playoffs, because they need to not make the playoffs. They need to stop trying to win games, like you said, Hannah, earlier about the Falcons, wasn't it? Where they need to stop trying to win games and accept the fact that they need a better pick next year. Yeah. But Sam Darnold started this game, and I was like, "Is this Sam Darnold? Is this Sam Darnold?" He was marching the team down the field, and then I realized that I went out on Saturday night and probably still had my beer goggles on, and Sam Darnold is not a good QB, and he turned out to be awful.
Classic Darnold.
Yeah, it really was. It really was. The Steelers looked like they do every week. They just turn up and they try some things, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. It was nice to see them involving Najee Harris and Deontay Johnson. I think Deontay Johnson had his best game of the season so far. Najee Harris was seeing a bigger workload, not a sustainable workload, a bigger workload, and it was nice. It was nice to see that they were actually using a really good running back that is Najee Harris. Don't you agree, Max? Really, really good running back.
He's getting better, but it's still not enough to save this season.
But yeah, so all in all, it was an okay game. But Hannah, you had a fun game to go to next, didn't you? With the Cowboys Jags.
Yeah, I actually really enjoyed this game. It was great fun, and as we said before, it could easily have been a game of the week on any other week, to be honest. For most of the game, I was convinced that the Cowboys were going to win it, to be honest. Even when kind of the Jags were pulling it back. I thought the Cowboys are going to take it here, particularly after that massive hit on Trevor Lawrence, who then kind of coughed up the ball with like 1 minute 30 to go. I was like, right, this is it. Cowboys are totally going to win. And then they seemed to manage to go 3 and out. And on that kind of third play, which was 3 and 10, he throws a deep ball, which obviously then gets knocked away, and then they've got to punt. I was like, why the hell, when you've only got 1 minute 30 to go, do you throw a deep ball? Well, really all you need to do is move the chains and keep the clock going. I was like, that was a really stupid play. And then obviously what happened, the Jags got the ball back, managed to tie it, and then went on to win on overtime. I mean, it wasn't kind of a masterclass in how to play football. There were loads of turnovers between the two and things. But I just really enjoyed seeing the growth of Trevor Lawrence. He seems to really be improving his game, gaining confidence, and actually starting to look like the person that we thought he would be in the player. So I'm really looking forward to see him continuing to grow. Mags, tell us about the Chiefs versus the Texans. I'm probably pleased to do that now, but at some points in that game, I think you were probably nervous.
Yeah. Frustrated would be a really good word to sum it up. A few weeks ago, I came out and said, Chiefs fans were annoying me because they were coming out and calling out the officials for being terrible against the Bengals, when actually the officials did a very, very good job against the Bengals and made some really good calls. Not so much in this game. I mean, I don't have a problem with the holding calls. I don't have a problem with these things, the pass interferences. Like they're 50-50 hit and miss. I do have a problem with them letting Juju Smith-Schuster be smashed in the face twice, head-to-head collisions, and then dropped on his head, and Patrick Mahomes be whipped around and landed on his head, and not calling any of it, and yet calling over 100 yards of penalties against Kansas City's for little mundane things. I think you have to keep the players safe. That is your number one job on that field, and they really failed to do that. Like I said, don't care if you're calling holding calls, but don't put the players in danger because of your incompetence. So I wasn't happy with that, but the Chiefs managed to still turn it around, which is good. Jerick McKinnon shout out again. He's been a star the last couple of weeks. Been absolutely loving watching him play. Marquez Valdez-Scantling as well. Lovely, lovely catch in there. One thing about the Texans, I like the rotating quarterbacks. I think there's something in that. I quite like it. I wonder if other teams are going to maybe try and copy that. I'm not sure, but it kind of throws teams off, I think, a little bit. So I wonder if they're just going to stick with that for the rest of the season. I quite like it. But yeah, Texans didn't get the job done. Chiefs did what they had to do, despite some just flat out bad officiating in that game, which is a bit of a shame. Oh, look at that. Paul, we got loads of time to talk about the Cardinals against the Broncos.
We really haven't got loads of time because we don't. You know what I mean? I even wrote in the show sheet, I hope we're running out of time so I don't have to talk about this. JJ Watt is amazing. One thing I will say is I wish that the Cardinals' third string QB was as good as the 49ers. Yeah. You know what I mean? Brock Purdy is actually a competent QB, and what we had there last night was we may as well have done Wildcat and just snapped it to James Conner. We may have had a better chance, you know what I mean? But yeah, we're gonna bypass that so we can get our predictions in. We're gonna make our predictions for week 16. Just a quick reminder for all of you that the games will be played on Saturday. There is a Thursday night game. There is 3 on Sunday, but most of the schedule is played on Saturday instead of Sunday. And I've also, seeing as it's Christmas, I've picked the 3 Christmas Day games as 3 of our games for predictions as well. But Hannah will give you your first game, and it's the Bengals versus the Patriots. Who wins? And Mac Jones over or under 237.5 passing yards.
I mean, I don't even know why you really need to ask me who wins, because of course I'm going to say the Bengals. And I'm actually going to go Mac Jones under. I think they probably are going to have to try and throw a bit more, but realistically, the best player is Ramondre, and he probably will do quite a lot of running, although he does catch the ball. But I'm still going to say under. I think the Bengals are going to kind of lock this game up, and Mac is just not doing his thing this year, is he? So I'm going to stick with that. So Mags, Paul's been very kind to us this week, and he's given us our home game. So you've got the Chiefs versus the Seahawks. So tell me who wins, and does Patrick Mahomes have over or under 30.5 rushing yards?
So I obviously think the Chiefs are going to win, and this was a great question, Hannah. I was toying with what to go with. Mahomes is usually around that kind of mark. I'm going to go optimistic and say the Chiefs will be comfortable enough that he's not going to have to worry too much about rushing. So I'm going to go with the under in this case for Patrick Mahomes. And Paul, you got the Giants up against the Vikings. Who do you think's going to win? And do you think the Vikings will ever have to come back from behind in this game like they did in the last one?
So I think the Vikings are going to win. And I think, yes, the Giants are going to score first. And then the Vikings will come back from behind and then run away with it, just to solidify that actually they are okay. But yeah, let's get into our Christmas Day special. Hannah, you have the first game of the day, which is the Packers versus the Dolphins. Who wins and who has more passing yards, Tua Tagovailoa or Aaron Rodgers?
So I'm going to go with the Dolphins win. I think this offense is going to overwhelm the Packers defense. And you know what happens when Tua gets into a groove? He can throw it for as many yards as anyone. So I'm going to go Tua.
Nice.
So Max, your Christmas Day game is the Broncos versus the Rams. Wow, what a thriller. So tell me who wins. And does the Rams D have over or under 5.5 sacks?
Do I have to watch it?
Merry
I don't want
Christmas.
to. Yeah. Oh, wow. Can't wait to unwrap that bag of shite. I mean, who wins? Not football. That's definitely the answer. But I suppose the Rams, right? And I'll say they get under that because the Broncos will, I don't know, just run the ball a lot, maybe. I don't know. Yeah, Rams and under for that. Let's go with that. Paul, you've got the Bucks against the Cardinals. That should be a pretty good game, actually. Who's going to win? And what kill streak will Kyler Murray peak at on Call of Duty? Or does Isaiah Simmons get a sack or interception in the game?
So I'm going to say a Bucks win.
Ooh.
Yeah. See, because I'm sensible. And also, I don't know about Kyler Murray's kill streak because it depends if his mum will let him play it on Christmas Day.
That's true.
But if he does, I don't know much about Call of Duty. I don't really play, but I'm going to say 13. 13's his kill streak. And yes, I think Isaiah Simmons gets a sack in this game. I think he gets a sack in this game. But that brings us to the end of our show. We would like to wish you all a Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
And yeah, so thanks for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe and follow us on Twitter at Wildcard Rewind. Head over to our YouTube channel and search for the Fantasy Wildcard Podcast Network. And make sure you give us a subscribe. And we will see you next week. Not sure what day, because it's Boxing Day on the Monday. So I'm not sure what day we're gonna do it. But yeah, we will see you next week when we rewind week 16. All right. Oh man. This is going well.
Hit the button, Paul. Hit the button, Paul.